Hello and welcome. For today's adventure, I find myself here in Beaver Creek, Ohio, just outside of the Dayton area, and I've come here today to document history. There is a very specific roadside attraction that I have come here for. I'm here to visit and pay my respects to the victims of the 9/11 terrorist attack on the World Trade Center here in the United States. They have a monument here with some of the remains of one of the towers here. And we're going to talk about it today, visit, and just take a walk through time. Lesson in history. So this road here is Fairfield Road. And right here in this little park, just off the side of the road, next to a bike path where people are coming and going, they have this little area dedicated to the 9/11 terrorist attacks. We're going to start right here with this board. They have a few boards set up and kind of go through this one by one, but this is a timeline of events board. It says September 11, 2001 attacks, Flight 11, American Airlines departs from Logan International Airport at 7:59. 8:13 has last routine communications with the FAA's air traffic control. It fails to heed air traffic controller's instructions to climb to 35,000 feet. A flight attendant on Flight 11 alerts American Airlines via airphone. The cockpit is not answering. 8:25, Flight 11 makes a 100-degree turn towards south, heading towards New York City. 8:44, a flight attendant aboard the Flight 11 reports by telephone to the American Airlines Flight Service offices in Boston, something is wrong. We are in a rapid descent. 8:46 a.m., Flight 11 crashes into the North Tower at roughly 466 miles per hour between the floors of 93 and 99. The next one, Flight 175, the South Tower, departs from Boston Logan Airport at 8:14. 8:37, Flight 175 confirms sightings of hijacked Flight 11 to flight controllers 10 miles to its south. 8:42, the flight is hijacked. 8:52, a passenger receives a phone call from his son. He says, "I think they've taken over the cockpit." 8:58, Flight 175 takes the heading towards New York. At 9:03, Flight 175 crashes at about 590 miles an hour into the south side of the tower, banked between floors 77 and 85. So a little bit later on, with the first flight, the North Tower of the World Trade Center begins to collapse due to the destruction of the stairwells. On the impact floors, no one was above the impact zone, and the North Tower escapes the collapse. The North Tower collapses 1 hour and 45 minutes, 45 seconds after the initial impact. The South Tower collapses 56 minutes and 2 seconds after the initial impact of Flight 175. As the roar of the collapse goes silent, tremendous gray-white clouds of pulverized concrete and gypsum rush through the streets. So there's the second tower that was hit. This is the first tower that was hit. And right here, they have these pillars. This is where one of the planes, which I believe would be the first, because it's a little bit higher up. North Tower, the South Tower hit a little bit lower. Also, on September 11, 2001, Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon. 820 American Airlines Flight 77 departs from Washington Dulles International Airport. Hijacking begins at 8:50 a.m. of Flight 77. Flight 77 deviates from its assigned course, turning south over Ohio. Basically, it just changes course at a rapid speed. At 9:37 a.m., Flight 77 crashes into the western side of the Pentagon and starts a violent fire. All 64 people on board are killed, as are 125 Pentagon personnel. 10:50 a.m., 5 stories of part of the Pentagon collapsed due to the fire. And also Flight 93. United Airlines Flight 93 takes off from Newark International Airport, bound for San Francisco International Airport. At 9:23, it receives warning message from the United Airlines flight dispatcher: beware any cockpit intrusion. 2 AC aircrafts hit World Trade Center. Hijackers storm the cockpit at 9:28. 9:32, they receive a radio transmission: keep remaining sitting, we have a bomb on board, as what was overheard by the flight controllers at Cleveland. Flight 93 redirects over Ohio and starts to fly eastwards. 9:57, passengers revolt, beginning on Flight 93. Flight 93 at 10:01. Passengers were seen waving his wings. The hijackers' efforts to defeat the passengers' counterattack. And 10:03, it's crashed by its hijackers and passengers due to fighting in the cockpit 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh in Somerset County. Wow. That is just, that's just terrible. This board here just kind of talks about Flight 93 and how they pretty much took over the cockpit. It says one terrorist who is a trained pilot took over the aircraft, diverted it back towards the East Coast, presumably towards the United States Capitol. The specific target, whether it was the Capitol or possibly some other building, it's unknown. But down here at the bottom, it says, of the 4 aircraft hijacked on September 11th, United Airlines Flight 93 was the only one that failed to reach its hijackers' intended target. So they very well could have possibly been headed for the White House. Nobody knows. Flight 77 here, the one that hit the Pentagon, says less than 35 minutes into the flight, hijackers stormed the cockpit and forced the passengers to the rear of the aircraft. One of the hijackers was a trained pilot, assumed control of the flight. Unknown to the hijackers, passengers aboard were able to make telephone calls to loved ones and relay information of the hijacking. The aircraft crashed into the western side of the Pentagon. 64 people on board were killed, including the hijackers. 125 people in the building were also killed, and there were dozens of witnesses. And it said news sources began reporting the incident within minutes. Here is a few photos. Before we get into the main reason as to why I'm here, this board here kind of explains it. It says on Tuesday, September 11, 2001, at 8:46, hijacked Flight 11 out of Boston's Logan Airport made impact with the north face of 1 World Trade Center between floors 93 and 99. 11 crew members, 76 passengers were on board. 3 staircases were destroyed when the plane made impact, making it impossible for anyone above the impact zone to escape. 1,462 people were killed, resulting from the first collision at 9:03, Flight 175, with 9 crew members, 51 passengers aboard, crashed into the south face of 2 World Trade Center. 630 people died in that tower. Shortly following the attacks, both towers collapsed, resulting in the destruction of several other buildings within the World Trade Center. In 2009, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey initiated a program through which communities interested in honoring the 9/11 victims' attacks could acquire structural steel salvage from the towers of the World Trade Center. This artifact on display here was meticulously studied by the FBI and the National Institute of Standards and Technology during the post-disaster forensic examinations. This piece was a multi-story window casement structure that was once situated between floors 101 and 105 of the North Tower, just above the point of impact of Flight 11. The piece is 25 feet tall, 8 feet wide, and weighs 3 tons. The spray-painted markings near the top were made as a form of cataloging when the tower was initially constructed. On September 11th, 2001, 10 years later, the Beaver Creek 9/11 Memorial was officially dedicated in front of hundreds of onlookers commemorating the 10th anniversary of the attacks. So that is them bringing the piece here to Ohio. It was displayed at the Popcorn Festival, it says. And this is when construction began. In preparation for the official dedication ceremony, this piece is being lowered into place. May 2012, Phase 2, the replicas of the Twin Towers, is complete. Okay, so that is the replicas of the Twin Towers. Right behind it, standing 25 feet, weighing 3 tons, 8 feet wide, is the remains of the North Tower. I love how at the bottom here, people have come to still pay their respects, leaving flowers, flags. Somebody even left a cane here. A little cross that says, "Never forget." Some flowers here. I just want to see what this says. "Always with us, never forget." This one says, "From Silverliners Trifecta Chapter." They have a light out here, so when people are driving along the road at night, you can see it all lit up. And I kind of do a little bit of a walk around here so you can see. Yeah, and that is it. One of the pieces of the North Tower here on display in Ohio. So don't quote me on this. I'm not entirely sure if this is true, but I read it online that during the 9/11 attacks, after it happened, they were trying to clean it up, that local firefighters here from the Dayton Beaver Creek area, they went up to help, and they ended up bringing back the giant beams here, which, it's sad, but it's cool though. I mean, it's not, you get what I'm saying. Like, as a history fan, I can see the historic side of it, but it's also very sad because so many people lost their lives that day. It's tough to talk about, and being here in person next to it, there's definitely an uneasy feeling. And I remember exactly where I was at on September 11th, 2001. Gonna sound rather old here. So I'm 31 now, and this occurred when I was in the 3rd grade. I remember when it happened. So I was in class, and I don't think we had heard anything until the end of the day. I remember my best friend at the time, Steven, his mom came to pick him up, and she was just in tears. And everybody kept asking, why, what was going on? And I think our teacher like sat us down right before the bell rang, and they said, hey, the World Trade Center was just attacked. They both went down. I'm not entirely sure that's exactly how it happened, but that's pretty much how I remember it, minus a few details maybe. But I just remember, my God, everything after that, all over the news, all over the radio, it was just horrific. And it changed the course of the US history. And it will forever be known as one of the worst historical events in US history, let alone world history. It's one of the worst terrorist attacks that we've ever had. And still to this day, people are uneasy about traveling. I know, being a YouTuber, traveling a lot, going through security still scares me. And I'm sure a lot of other people can relate to that as well. It's just, things aren't the way they used to be. But I am glad for our nation's security, our armed forces, and everybody that keeps us safe. And, you know, rest in peace to all the people that have lost their lives that day. It's, like I said, it's just tough to talk about. And I feel extremely terrible for doing this. But I love history, and I wanted the story of this monument to be told. And I don't think there's a lot of information out there about this. And I want people to come here that are from the area, or they might not even be from the area, to come and visit this place. And it's a piece of history. It's a piece of my history. It's a piece of almost everybody's history. And by doing this video, in no way, shape, or form is this meant to disrespect anybody. Believe me, I would never do that. And, you know, it's just, I don't even know. Like, it's, no way am I disrespecting anybody. If anything, this is me respecting the things that have happened. The people that went to go pick this thing up and bring it here so they could share it with the world. I don't know. It's just, it's crazy. As I'm walking around this little park here, I saw these boards. There are 3 boards dedicated to all the people that were inside of the World Trade Centers. There's this board here, this board here, and this board here. And this 4th one over here has a little bit more from the trade centers, but this one also has victims of the Pentagon, Flight 11, Flight 77, Flight 93, and Flight 175. All the passengers that were on those aircrafts as well. But I noticed something over here. I was walking by a second ago. This little rock. Love like Etta, 2008, 2022. The 9/11 Memorial, a tribute to the victims and heroes of September 11th, 2001, dedicated on September 11th, 2011, Beaver Creek, Ohio. I'd like to take this opportunity and have a moment of silence for all the people that lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. So the next portion of this video, for just a few moments, will be in complete silence. Okay, everybody, I think that's going to be a wrap on the 9/11 Memorial here in Beaver Creek, Ohio. It's definitely emotional to see, say the least. I recommend checking it out at least once. Come visit, come pay your respects, have a moment of silence. And I'd also like to dedicate this video to the people who lost their lives that day. And I'd also like to dedicate this video to the men and women of our armed forces. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. From the past and present people who have served. And let me know down in the comments below if 9/11 has affected you, or if you know anyone that has ties to this monument, or just in general to 9/11. Let me know where you were during the 9/11 attacks. That being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Remember to be kind, be safe, take care of each other. God bless the USA, God bless our troops, and God bless everybody else. Take care, guys.